Not sure if you have this problem, but I sure did when I first started out as a filmmaker. I bought all the wrong stuff. I wasted so much money. Today, I want to pay forward 4 pieces of gear I wish I would have invested in at the very beginning, but more importantly, why? Number one, you hear this quite a bit in a bunch of videos, but you rarely hear why. Invest in a great tripod. When I first bought my Satchler Ace tripod, it was a great investment. It cost me used on Facebook Market to the tune of $600, and it was the best money I had ever spent. Why? That's very simple. I bounced around from cheap tripod to cheap tripod, and I always had anxiety on set. My rig was expensive, and I did not feel it was safe or secure. Plus, I couldn't really pan or tilt. And the Satchler tripod, at the end of the day, solved that for me. I could leave my rig on there for days and feel secure. It's not going anywhere. The stability is incredible. I can pan and tilt fluidly, but more than that, it is built to last a lifetime and is hands down an investment that you should make, and I'm incredibly happy I did. Number two, cine lenses. You hear this all the time, but until you try them, you really don't know what you're missing. And at the end of the day, I bounced around from f-stop to f-stop lens, and I battled quite a bit in post, matching one Sigma art lens to the next because no two were exactly the same, and it always seemed like one would let in a tiny bit more or a tiny bit less light than the other. So at the end of the day, the same settings on each lens really weren't doing me any favors in post, and it created a lot of nightmares because I didn't really know how to color grade, and that workflow was very cumbersome and it took a long time. And at the end of the day, the quicker you do something, the more money you make. So the first time I tried my Canon CNE lenses, my life was forever changed. I had heard that Cine lenses, for the most part, are made in a controlled environment and they match each other really, really well. But until I experienced it, I really did not know what I was missing. At the end of the day, my Canon CNE lens set had the same coating across the board, so therefore, color-wise, it matched each other perfectly. And the teeth stops were scientific. And the first time I used them on set and I took that footage to post, I was blown away. For the first time, my shots matched across the board, and I could basically create one killer color grade and paste it across the entire scene, no matter if I shot with a 35 millimeter lens, a 50 millimeter lens, or an 85 millimeter lens. And that was a game changer for me. Number three, high quality and high powered lights. Very early on in my career, I invested in Aperture 300Ds. I had 2 of them. They were daytime balance, and make no mistake, those lights were really good. But they required a lot of work because at the end of the day, they were daytime balanced, and a lot of the house lights are not. So I'd always have to show up on set, turn off all the lights, create my own lighting, and that took some time. My world was forever changed when I invested in 2 lights, the Forza 500B Mark II and the Forza 720B. Now, for starters, these were bicolored lights, and now I can come into any place and match the interior house lights, which is incredible. That saves me a lot of time. But more importantly, the average light was pretty much double my previous, so that gave me a lot of power. And for the first time, I could battle the sun, which I couldn't do before. And now with these 2 lights, I pretty much am set for absolutely anything and everything that's in front of me that day, no matter if it's interior or exterior. And I truly wish I invested in these lights earlier on. Number four, the right camera body for me. And as always, let's use my dumb experience as an example. Very early on, I started out with a Fuji X-H1, then I moved on to a Fuji X-T3, then I moved on to a Pocket 4K, then I moved on to a couple of Pocket 6Ks, then I moved on to a Sony A7S III, then I invested in a Sony FX3, and after that, I also invested in a Sony A7 IV. Boy, did I waste a bunch of money buying stuff I did not need. Hear me out. I bought stuff based on the specs, 120 frames with minimal crop, full frame, this, that, And at the end of the day, when I look back, I used very little of these features that were at the time so important to me because everybody was talking about them. My camera could do this, my camera could do that. And I wanted my camera to also do that. And therefore, I made dumb purchases. But if I look back on my history with every single camera that I had ever had, two things matter, and that's it, nothing else: 24 frames a second and high picture quality. That is it. My Sony FX3, although it could do 120 frames, minimal crop, and a bunch of other incredible stuff, including shooting in low light at 12,800 ISO, I have never used these features once. But I did buy the camera based on its ability to do so. Eventually, I understood what was important to me, and I bought the right camera body for me. It was the Canon C70. Why? Very simple. It could do 24 frames a second, big deal. Lots of cameras can. When it comes to picture quality, it could shoot internal 12-bit RAW to SDs, which is incredible. It has 16 and a half stops of dynamic range. When I put a speed booster on it, I could use all my EF glass, and it gets an extra stop of light. So my powerful Canon CNE lenses that are T1.5 become a T1.0, which is unreal. And at the end of the day, this is the body I see myself with, as silly as it sounds, for the rest of my life. As always, if any part of you found this valuable, make sure you subscribe because there's a lot more on the way.